The void stares back. The credits are rolling, the mics are recording. Gaze into the void with your hosts, Josh and Joey, as they discuss thoughts and questions surrounding visual, written, and interactive media steeped in cosmic horror.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of The Void Stares Back.
It's us.
I'm Josh.
I'm Joey.
This is a podcast about cosmic horror in various forms of media. This episode is being recorded on February 24th, in the year of the Cosmic Overlords 2020.
I'm going to say a different year.
I did. Yes.
They're all...
Yeah.
They all belong to them.
Almost said 2019. So...
Same difference.
Yeah. We just finished watching Die Farbe, or Die Farbe. Some pronounce it Die Farbe, but I'm pretty sure the official German pronunciation is Die Farbe. Or The Color. And the English version, or the multi-region version, released by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, The Color Out of Space is just its actual title. It's an adaptation of the H.P. Lovecraft story by the same title. This was made in 2010.
10 years old.
Yeah. Although it has a look of something much older than that, but I think purposefully so.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. We should talk about that at some point a little bit.
Sure.
We watched this in anticipation of watching the new 2020 film, The Color Out of Space.
Yep.
With starring Nicolas Cage. I guess it hit the film circuit in 2019, but
Sure.
Release 2020.
Yeah, close enough.
Which will be our next episode. But all of this is to coincide with actual reading of the H.P. Lovecraft short story, which we've already done and recorded the episode for, but it will be the third one released in this order.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties with that episode, and we had to push it back so that we can fix all that stuff by the time the release shows up. And it just kind of worked out nicely for getting a hold of the ability to watch the new one.
Yeah, we were going to go to the theater, and that kind of crashed and burned due to availability near us and timing and all that stuff. So
yeah, basically, if a new movie that like fits our theme isn't really conveniently close to us, the time between us watching it and getting back home to record it is basically either it's next to us and we can go see it, or it's like an hour away. Yeah. And so it's not really
at the closest.
Right. It's not really conducive to
we did
our
that
show.
We did that with the Lighthouse, and
I think that worked out okay. But
it did, but I definitely think there are some things in that episode that probably suffered due to that time.
Yeah, just memory loss.
Yeah, that being the biggest one, if anything. So
miss out on those details, baby.
Yeah, but all that being said, what'd you think? General impressions. Our good old start off.
They're positive. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I did too.
Well acted.
Yeah, I think so for the most part. There was a couple lines, or just delivery of lines in the, like maybe that first 5 minutes that I felt a little, I wasn't sure, but then it really just hit its stride, and everybody did a pretty good job.
Well, I think for me what that felt like was the whole movie. Like if you started watching this movie at any point, just pick any time in the movie, click play, you'd feel that way.
That's
you felt.
Probably true.
I felt like the whole thing had that kind of a vibe or tone or something like that, to the way that it was acted, delivered, written, all this stuff, and you just had to let it
be its own.
It be its thing, and then none of it felt out of place. So I think that, like, whilst people may not like that overall as an acting choice or as a writing choice, it was consistent, which is, I think, a better marker for something well acted than not.
Yeah, than certain scenes just feeling really bad or out of place or poorly done.
Very different or whatever. And then this didn't feel that way. I can get
on board with that.
Yeah. So, because I think at the end of the day, if you're going to let something like that bother you about a movie, that's all well and good. But I think your issue isn't with the acting or the performance or the writing. It's with the context. You're just not a fan of the thing, you know. And
that's probably true.
Yeah, if the performance is shaky, that shows in any context, whether it's weird like this or whether it's modern. You'll notice when something's different. Yep. Just because your brain's wired that way. So yeah, I felt it was pretty consistent for me.
Oh yeah, I did too. I guess I didn't know what to expect going in.
Yeah, me either. So, by the way, this is double blind. Neither of us have seen this one.
Right. Yep. One of the few on the show so far. I think there's only been one other one, right? Arrival was the only other, or not Arrival.
I've seen Arrival.
Endless.
Yeah, the Endless was a double blind.
I think that's the only other one up to this point that.
I think we've watched one or two that was like years and years ago that you watched it or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember which ones those were, but.
I don't.
Because we watched a lot that you were like consistent fan of, and you watch it all the time.
Yeah.
At least once like a year or something,
exactly,
and that kind of thing.
Yeah, many of those.
But there'll be a few that you just haven't revisited, and even now that we made our list, you I'm sure have made some amount of point for some of those to just avoid them if ever you had the choice or like the thought. You're just like, oh well, we're gonna watch it on the show, so keep myself blind, kind of thing.
Yeah, we're getting to the territory where there's a lot that we'll be viewing, I think, that fits the theme. That is mostly like, quote unquote, old, like 80s, even early 90s stuff that I've never seen, but I know exists and is perfect material that I just have never watched before. So, so we'll be hitting a lot of double blind territory soon, I'm sure.
It's you get to live in my shoes for once.
Yep.
You get to know what it's like. But yeah, no, I enjoyed almost all of it. I think the only thing that will be like a point of maybe I didn't enjoy it, and I think I did, is okay. All right. We just take a moment to talk about our sponsors. We're going to spoil it. We're sponsored by Spoiling This Movie.
Yes.
This podcast is brought to you by, we're going to spoil the heck out of this.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
This film.
So if you have not seen Die Farbe, or if you want to watch it in the true English dub, you can get an actual just like Region 1 copy, which is Color Out of Space, which is available on Amazon.
I can't... Okay.
On Prime for free.
So we did research before this.
Yes.
About how to get a hold of this movie.
Yeah.
Which is why Josh found out about where to acquire it and that sort of stuff that he mentioned at the top of this show, top of this episode. And in doing that, we played a clip.
Yeah.
Of the English dub.
Mm-hmm.
And it does not seem very good.
No.
I recommend that you watch it in the original German.
Yeah, because there actually are English spoken scenes in the original German film that take place, in America.
Yeah.
And then, or I'm assuming it's America. It may have actually been. It could have been.
It can be in Europe somewhere.
Yeah. And somewhere else in Europe. But yeah, then the rest of the bulk of the movie takes place in Germany, and it's also set in a different time than the original written story. Yeah. The written story is in the 30s. And this one takes place
post World War One.
Which would also be the 30s, but like the story follows a son looking for his father who went back to Germany. That period of time, the son present day is the 70s.
Day. Okay.
So, because it says something like that on the back of the, I don't remember the exact year. I have it right in front of me, but
it's on the clamshell, baby.
1975 is the present day time. But there's the bulk of the story revolves around events that took place around World War One.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
What was I about to spoil about the movie before I said that? You asked me a question. And
you said something you weren't sure you liked, but you think you like it. And then there was a pause.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of us leaping right into it, if I say that. I'd rather start talking about like the movie stuff like we usually do.
Okay. Sure.
So before we get that, we talked about the acting and how I enjoyed that. But what about like the actual filming of this thing? Because it's very strange, even for 2010.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very strange.
There's like an aggressive use of CGI scenes, which was very strange. But like the filming of it, the actual hard filming, or perhaps whatever editing was done to the filming, actually bridged that really close.
It did.
And there are lots of moments where you're like, I don't know if this is a real shot.
Yeah. There's a couple like just panning of rooms that I was like,
yeah.
Am I looking at a real room? Because that flashlight effect seems off, but the rest of this movie's been off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And
I was like, was none of this filmed on location? Is it all just a CG like fever dream I'm having?
Right. And then they green screen the whole thing behind the actors or what? Like,
It opened, the movie opened with some CG, like weird B-roll stuff that I immediately recognized as CG. And it was just innocuous shots of like paperwork and like passports and some other shit. And I was like, okay, so it's going to have some CG in it.
Right.
Because I don't like probe Josh for information about the movie before we started, even though he's like freely told me of it in the past. I've just forgotten it all.
Yeah.
So I didn't know when this movie was made before you just told me here on the cast.
Sure.
I mean, you've told me in the past, I think.
Yes,
We've talked about it, but it's not something that I cataloged away so that I just know. Because my brain catalogs very specific stuff, and that's apparently not something that I care about. So I didn't really know how old it was, but looking at the CG, I was like, okay, it's kind of an old CG / cheap CG. So whether it's a new movie or an old movie, like newer, in quotes, it's unclear.
Right.
Because like people can make that kind of CG in their rooms now today, and like there's lots of tools available these days. So I didn't know exactly when it was made based on that. And then all the shots in the movie seemed like it was like low budget style stuff.
I was going to say they
many
must
moments
have had a very slim budget for this. And I mean, that could have been purposeful or not, but
like I said, I don't know if it's like a post effect thing making everything look kind of shitty.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it was,
because I could see why you'd want to do that.
Yeah, it just didn't seem like they needed a big budget to do everything they wanted to do with this film.
Yeah.
So, whether or not the budget was low or not is another. I imagine it probably wasn't high.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure it was pretty low, but the camera quality or whatever was done to it made me like super unclear about what that was.
Yeah, it definitely
really
feels
early.
like there's a weird filter over everything.
And then it's in black and white on top of that. And so I was like,
chosen to be black and white.
I was like, wow, this is exactly what we talk about in our casts in movie form, where we talk about like plot holes and why that like this genre of film is so elastic with like whether that would make your movie or your story bad. When in fact it's like, it's okay, it's totally intended. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. A nod's as good as a wink to a blind bat.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh yeah, it's totally meant by. But it could. If this is what he meant, it means that there's time travel, and it's like that's crazy, or it was all a dream, or whatever. And this is like the filmmaking version where they're like, okay, we're planning a movie in black and white, and maybe they don't realize it, or maybe they do, and they're like, that means we can get away with so much crap that's just gonna disappear because it's in black and white, and our shot composition matters less, and like all this other stuff is like a very different approach to filmmaking that you don't normally, there's stuff that you don't even put on your checklist anymore that you don't have to make sure is super great. I think lighting's your biggest deal now, and that's all you have to worry about.
Yeah, lighting and frame are the two number one things you have to care about.
We should make a black and white film.
I'm down.
Sounds easy.
Yeah, I'm down. Hey man,
I
got my degree in photography. I know a little bit about that stuff. So.
We'll make it stop motion then.
Perfect.
Just 20,000 photographs.
Dude, I would love to make a stop motion Lovecraft film.
Just film it normally, and then
cut it up.
No, well, yeah, there's an editing technique called like posterization or something like that, and it basically cuts frame rate in half, so it looks like it's
perfect.
Yeah, a lot of film people do that for certain scenes to make sure it fits with like if like a camera shoots in a certain frame per second, you can posterize other stuff that's maybe in higher frames per second so that it doesn't clash with your brain when you watch them together.
Sure.
And you can tell when something isn't posterized, and you're like, and it jars you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the black and white thing felt like a nice catch-all net for them that was just like, if there was any weird stuff, it's kind of gone now. It's not really important why I'm watching this film.
Yeah.
Because like now that we're at this point in our cast, if you're like observing this before our next episode comes out, or if you're listening to them in order, I don't know, sometime in the late 2050s, when everything we know is gone.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this on a Mars base right now, wow, that's crazy.
Dang.
It's weird that Lovecraft survived this long.
Yeah. I mean, it's more weird that our podcast survived this long.
Transpermia, dude. That's planet to planet inception of ideas. Maybe he was a Martian. Just like you, dear listener. Whoa. I bet you that's the first podcast that's called you out this old. How crazy is that? I don't know. I feel like a podcast getting to Mars is way easier than any physical thing getting to Mars.
Sure, but I'm just saying I'd be impressed that
we're that popular.
That we were important enough to be on the list of information to be sent to the Martians.
Your definition of important is curious to me.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
I don't know.
That was just such a fun tangent about Mars.
We're at the point in our cast.
Oh, right. Where we're bookending with 2 black and white movies made 10 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
So this was made in 2010, and our very first episode, our episode 0, was The Lighthouse, which was made in 2019. Well, it released in 2019.
Yep.
I don't know how long the production cycle was on that, but I don't even know how long the production cycle is on an average movie, but I imagine it's not very quick.
Yeah.
And that's an example of like the fucking best cameras in the world filming in black and white on purpose and seeing like the finest detail.
Yeah.
Like, because the reason that I thought that this was either edited to be that way or shitty camera quality was shadow black and white interpolation that the camera was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that with like a lot of old stuff because it's bad at it, where you'll get like that really ugly gradient.
Yeah.
From perfect black to whatever, and like as your high quality camera goes up, that gradient smooths out and becomes defined, and your blacks are true blacks all of a sudden when you're spending 20 G's on a camera. And you don't get a lens, you just get a brick that you hook stuff up to. You don't even get a thing to look, you don't get a monitor, it's just a brick, and you have to buy other things. So it's a whole thing. But it's kind of curious to see like both sides, because we haven't watched a black and white film on the show just yet until now.
Right.
Yeah. That was older.
Yeah. Very true.
Anyways, it's I'm just curious as to how many little things get cleaned up by that, and like whether it like if they re-release that movie footage today in full color. I don't even know if they shot it in color. So maybe it doesn't exist in color at all.
I don't know, yeah.
Because it would make sense to me that you wouldn't, like if you had the option to record it in monochrome, that you should. Right? Gives you a better idea of the composition. I actually don't know good technique. Maybe you want to shoot it in color because when it translates to black and white, if it's shot well in color, it translates better to black and white.
I was going to say maybe you have more control over your tones and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe it's like a bad idea to shoot in color because you don't get an idea of what it'll look like in black and white without any fancy equipment or something that would do that. I don't know. Because there's so many like, because we face this. We do a show. We usually announce it at the end of every podcast where we play board games live on Twitch.
Yeah. And
like a problem that I face all the time, and you face now that you kind of man the ship in a lot of episodes, is that we don't really use like a proper monitor, a computer monitor for our setup.
Yeah.
And so we have like the furthest from an idea of what any of the shots truly look like.
Truly, yeah.
And how they're being sent out because we're running it through televisions or weird weird resolutions. And all of this stuff.
And we use 2 very different cameras.
Right.
One for our front-facing shot and one for the game shot.
Yeah, very different.
And they're different in quality, different actual camera types, different.
They're also probably 10 years apart in their production.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
know, and like it's a very curious thing, and so I can't even imagine how that works. Like, because I just really don't have a current grasp on that.
Yeah.
Let alone what it was like 10 years ago for this film to organize black and white shoots.
Yeah, I can tell you what film was like for photography 10 years ago, but I don't have any knowledge of the
Well, there
of
was
the
a
film industry.
there was a scene in this that was time lapsed.
Yes, that's true.
Photographs. We got some photographs smashed together, taken every, I don't know, 10 days or some shit, watching something grow.
Yeah.
That was nice. I liked that shot.
I did too.
It was everything I wanted out of an Eldritch movie, to have gross things like bulging out of
the
soil.
Earth. Yeah. Watch that loam grow into a weird
It made me
bulbous...
think about when that technique to show like showed up in film. I don't know if time lapse showed up like as just a fun thing a person did, and then
right,
or if the first time it ever shows up on film is in a movie context, because it's the kind of thing that, like, I don't know, you have to have like all these different backgrounds and understanding to even innovate on, I think, because it's the same with the first animation, those like shitty spin things that have like a horse galloping or or a man dancing or something.
Toys, yeah,
that's the very first piece of animation. If you didn't know, look it up. It's awesome.
Yeah.
There's a person invented it because they really liked horses. It's not even like,
no,
how do we innovate on drawing and animation? And
it wasn't like, how do I make a moving picture? It was, I just want to see a horse gallop.
Yeah. They were just fascinated by every step of a horse's gallop and spent time just drawing stills and not feeling satisfied by these stills. And found a good way to put it all together. Anyways, I don't know. It was just really a nice addition to the movie.
It was, yeah.
And it was pretty seamless.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
and once
it was
we got
nice.
the first one, I was actually hoping for a little more of that, like to see the growth of the vegetation change or whatever, you know.
Anything else that we got in that realm ended up being CG stuff.
It was, yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily about the growth, but we got some close-up shots of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a weird mix where they were like, we'll use CG on this one, or time lapse. It's a curious thing to cross your mind when you're making that sort of decision.
Yeah. How did you feel about the shakeup on both setting and like story structure and like just like the general plot?
Well, that was the one I was talking about at the top.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I'm mostly done with my bigger points about the film. If you don't have anything else to add, we can move to that.
I don't think so. Yeah, no.
Just be aware that if you go out to watch it, if you go out to watch it, do that. If you want the context of what we're talking about here, because I think you should just watch it anyways. Because
I think
cool.
so too.
But the visuals will definitely be something that you'll notice immediately. Ooh, I'm just gonna kick the table real quick. Not bad. The end is different.
Very different.
Well, I don't think that's true. It leans into something we talked about in our podcast that you'll hear at the end of the month. It's about the validity of the messenger.
Oh, sure. Yes.
And I was just like feeling validated during that part of the movie, but also like, I need to pay attention to all these little details. Mm-hmm. It's very curious. And I think that the choice to do that in the movie is, I think, enhanced in slight ways with the add of the war story, story choice, I guess. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, that's kind of a common thing that you hear in war stories, where it's like, I did a crime during war, and like, or I am a soldier and now I'm scarred for life, so I do crime and I'm fucked up inside or whatever. And it's like, or like, I was destined to be a soldier because I was born killer, and like, or something like that. And like, so this guy has like a touch from the great beyond, and it sparks in him insidiousness. Yeah. And he kills some entire family of farmers. Yeah. Crafts this weird otherworldly story and gets to die with his story of natural causes instead of being, I don't know, it's curious. It's like the implications of that story are also that the family, like in the reading, the family is described as lame. Yes. I believe was the word, or was it dumb?
No, dumb means they can't talk, which was not true. So
right. I think it was lame, right?
I think so.
He uses a word to describe like just mostly Nahum. Yeah. And like maybe one of his sons or something like that. He's just kind of not super educated person, and he's
he's
just like
just a little vacuous.
Yeah, and he's kind of spacious and just sort of seems to go through the motions. And this Nahum in this movie is very much like that.
Yes.
So that part holds true, and that's the kind of person or family that you could
mess with. Yeah.
Well, that you could control the stories
Mm-hmm.
you hear about them from the perspective of the rest of the town or the rest of the village, if you were in any way between them as a middleman. And what's our main character's name? We don't know, like the main storyteller.
In the book, it's Ami.
Ami,
in the
that's his
movie,
name,
it was changed to Armin.
Armin.
Yeah, it was Ami Pierce in the book and Armin Pierska in the in the movie. So
Okay, yeah. So he
can't wait to find out what it is in the 2020 movie.
it's different again.
Yeah.
So yeah, he like, and you learn this right away, and it's framed as curiosity, but he injects himself in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, he's there still injecting himself in more than he just let on.
Yeah.
Right before everybody goes missing / dies.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Do you have an opinion about that being like?
I mean, if that's
a variation,
if they're trying to drive that home as.
I don't think it's. I don't think it was none.
Okay.
I was going to say I don't. Yeah. I still think it was something there because it got to both of them.
Yes, and there's a moment where Nahum, like in the ending flashback sequences that kind of show, Armin was doing more than he said in the one of the scenes is instead of Armin telling Nahum it's in the well water, Nahum's telling him there's something in the water. You know? And that's the part that I was like, all right, this drives home that there is something in the well. Like the meteorite happened.
Yeah. There
is a weird form or something is there messing with the surrounding area and the people in it. So, yeah, I was hoping that they weren't trying to drive home that he's just responsible for everything and then made up this wild, crazy story to cover it up and nobody believes him. But there's like other testimony in the town and stuff. Again, only according to Armin, but it doesn't seem like the land is being used by anyone, and it is in fact messed up when our main protagonist, the son, goes there. So
there's a curious thing, right? Do you remember all the scenes we get at the end?
I remember a lot of them.
Okay, let's go through them because I want to find a timeline.
Okay,
real quick to maybe support something I'm about to say. We get to see Nahum with Merwin by the well.
Yeah.
Before Merwin goes missing, and the only thing that he tells us about in the original telling is that at some point Merwin went missing, and I don't know when that occurred. Is what he says. He's just like,
and I can't explain the lantern. We get that, which is just a nod to in the actual story that the lantern's
like a weird melted lantern.
Melded, yeah. So,
but we get a scene of him looking like he's about to push Merwin into the well.
Yeah, and then we get
we get a scene that you just described of Nahum hysterically telling him about the well water and not the other way around.
Right.
What else do we get?
We get a couple sequences of just water.
Sure.
If you're talking about every detail,
yep.
There's just some water like rippling and stuff.
Okay.
Let's see. We get. Oh, now I said I remember them, and now that I have to think of them, I'm not.
Yeah, those were just two big ones that stuck out to me. I know that he's in.
We see the son's father looking in to the well, and the well is now on, like, closer onto the land, and there's actual growth around it. It's not in like a weird rocky, dusty area.
So.
And
it was on his property.
Okay.
Nahum's is what I thought that was showing. Because it shows that photograph before those happen of Nahum at his place.
Yes.
And that's the scene it cuts to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
and then,
the well is on his property.
Yeah.
And not on the gardener's property.
Yeah.
Or possibly both.
Yeah. And the soldier is looking in, like the father is looking in, and he says, "No, I see nothing. There's nothing in there."
And his eyes are like shining with purple as he's looking down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Okay, so those are all the big ones, I think. There might have been one little one in there intermixed with like the Gardner family stuff, but I don't remember. Yeah. So I was trying to think of whether the moment that triggers for Ami or Amin is when he eats of the fruit. Because he has no meaningful interaction.
Because we get that scene too. There's a cut to them both holding the fruit.
Oh.
It goes back to that where he's holding.
What was different about it?
I don't know that there's anything different. It was I distinctly remember it flashing.
Well, I was hoping there might be something different because
and taking a bite, and then it cuts to something else.
Because the difference also is that in all of the other scenes, Amin has a different look about him. Mm-hmm. He's like scarier looking. He's
very much more purposeful rather than inquisitive.
Yeah, he's very calculated. And I was curious if that was the moment.
That would be interesting.
That like it was able to infect him and for whatever reason him be some kind of a host for future, like basically becoming a cultist for this thing and feeding him Merwin and like and that sort of stuff. Because like so there's also a curious thing in that, so we get to see right before all these weird scenes where they're backtracking his story, where the three soldiers, interact with the well. They throw grenades in it and like, they're just weirdly interacting with the well.
Anticlimactic explosion too, which is I'm sure due to budgetary concerns, but it was pretty funny. It was just like poof, there's like a little
I mean that's smoke. How grenades would actually work.
I know, but they threw 3 of them in there. Like it's not,
I mean it doesn't get bigger if it's 3. It's just more.
Yeah, but I'm saying that well would have caved in.
Maybe. Maybe.
Like there enough of the blast would have.
I mean, they're not concussive grenades; they're frag grenades, and that's like shrapnel. That's just designed to kill humans.
Yeah.
It's possible that, it could have caved in. I don't know the actual, like, story.
Yeah, I'm not saying I need an action flick here.
And if it does explode bigger, it's because it was submerged in the mud.
Right. Yeah.
In which case, there's no explosion. There's just fucking mud everywhere.
Yes.
Because that would amplify the explosion.
Right.
Being submerged like that.
Mm-hmm. In any case.
But yeah, so maybe that part still happened.
Mm.
And that's post everyone seeing the crazy shit go down.
Maybe.
And then later, they leave on their little Jeep back to Amin's place, where he also has a well. And now they're like suspicious of wells or something. And then he peeks in that one.
Yeah, we better check that
and it's too late. He's already witnessed the color the first time. And so he's all... entranced. Full converted. Yeah. He was like right there. And so when he looks down and he's asked if there's anything in there, he says there's nothing down here. So maybe it's just the second well visit and he's already gone and he's been incepted, which only comes back to bite him when he's like ancient and has kids and wants to visit Germany again to stand in the forest.
Interesting. It's an interesting take. Yeah, I don't know.
Because it doesn't take away, like, whether that happened in that order or didn't, or subverted the other thing we're shown as a lie, doesn't really matter in that it doesn't change the other events that he lies about being plausibly different. But yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Us getting that is the bigger part, right? It answers some questions that Lovecraft is famously
left out.
Yeah, left open.
Yeah.
Which is possibly negative, depending on how you take it. But this, I think, still leaves...
I was going to say, I know a lot of people hail this as still currently the best adaptation of a Lovecraft story into film.
Oh, just period?
Just in general, even despite the changes that were made. So
I guess like that's like a very specific adaptation, though, because it's...
Because there's a lot of stuff inspired by Lovecraft that are way better than
way better.
But in terms of direct adaptation of plot points,
that seems like you're like, we need a positive thing to say about this movie. How finely detailed do we get about the award it's won? you know, like it's the best story inspired by a Lovecraft story, based on a Lovecraft story, shot in black and white.
I don't think that's true.
No,
The Lighthouse is better.
It's not based on a Lovecraft story.
You don't know.
I think I do. I think the guy who wrote it has said that.
Yeah.
Like what it's based on.
I know.
It says it in the credits, brother.
I know.
How dare you? How dare you? Live in front of all of our friends. I don't know. Do you have an overall opinion about the change, though? Did you
I think
not
the
like it?
wartime setting works just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Out of personal preference, I like the original better.
Well, I do as well, but
in terms of like, just does this function, and was it like, did it throw me off or like take away from the experience? Absolutely not. No, I thought this was totally fine.
yeah. Well, I think it also like
believable
enhanced it in that I didn't expect it, kind of thing, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. Because up to that point, other than it being the son who's getting told the story instead of just a random dude who's come to survey the land,
It changes who the liar is.
It does,
Yeah.
but like beat for beat. Otherwise, it's the same.
Yeah.
Up to, oh, this was like,
Guess what, fucker?
guess what?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it being the contingent of soldiers that see the experience rather than scientists and detectives that have come back. You know, so
Sure. Well, that's the part I prefer the original story about.
me too. Yeah,
Is the telling of just that moment. Like,
yes,
I like this movie a lot. You know, like when you put them side by side, I still think this is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hoping for that moment of horror to be a little bit different, and I think what we got was awesome. Of that, but it definitely was very different.
very.
And from that moment, I was like, okay, how much different is the rest of this going to be? Because up to this point, the soldier war thing wasn't that far-fetched to like bridge that gap of any kind. So
Yeah, absolutely not. That's why I say I think it functions pretty well. So as a plot change, but
all right, cool.
I think the very tail end result of a specific scene was done really well, but the stair scene.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Well, that's the scene right before the detectives come back.
Yes,
Because lots of time passes between those in the story.
Okay, I guess
that group of
misunderstood
information
what you were
was
referring to.
all missing.
Yes,
In the way that it was given.
yes,
We got, like you said, a little bit of the stair thing, and him finding the rooms, and that whole thing was pretty true to the experience. But because we didn't linger there, I was worried it would feel rushed and the movie would be over very shortly after that. And then it wasn't, so that was good because it sort of did its own thing.
What felt like 30 minutes after that, which was good.
Yeah, I agree.
But that the tension when reading the story on that stairwell is it's like palpable.
It's huge.
It's like
elongates the moment in the story.
The air in the room becomes thick as you're reading the story. Like, it's great.
Very, very important part of the story, I think. Well, for me.
Yeah, no, same. And then this just wasn't quite there.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
And
it changed the moment. It changed the moment.
Yes.
A moment that in the story that was written that was innocuous and like thrown to the wind as like, maybe I was just seeing things. Where Ami in the story interacts with the color.
Yeah.
All we get is like a half sentence about the color brushed by me.
Yeah.
And it felt like, and I thought I felt it. Is the gist. I don't know the exact wording, but in this, there's like a really long scene where we get to hang out with the color, and it's also stressful in a different way.
Yes.
But the stair scene exists as the short sentence now, where we still get a little bit of it.
Yeah.
But that one more felt like this is the beat we need to hit.
Yeah.
But it isn't the beat we want the tension to be on, and so they chose a different one.
I liked the what we get of Nahum giving his little spiel about the color being in the well and stuff like that.
His last dialogue.
Yeah, him being goopy instead of like ashy. I liked that. I don't know if I prefer one or the other, but I enjoyed it in this. So.
It was definitely weird for me because everything else was ashy.
Right.
Even his wife.
Yeah, his wife just like her head falls off and turns into a pile
I want to talk about that scene.
I do too.
That's the best scene in the movie.
Oh, it was great.
And the reason I want to talk about it is because I think it was the first scene made.
Probably.
Because it's the nicest scene in the whole movie.
Yes.
Quality-wise, the attention to like that scene had like I think it was given the most attention because it was really good.
Yeah.
The motion of the CG,
Mm-hmm.
and all of it was really nice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was pretty quality. Yeah, her makeup job and everything. Just like before we even get to see her face, like her slumped over and stuff, and like
Yeah, I don't even know if that was an actress.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, how they set that person or prop up was very good.
I guess I didn't consider it, but like in the story, they spend a lot of time saying things like, "I wouldn't dare describe it," and like,
yeah,
it's better left unmentioned.
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, we're getting to those moments now, and like,
right,
what are they gonna do? Are they gonna
mm-hmm.
describe it? And they
yeah,
did.
Are we gonna see it? Yeah,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a really crazy take. I was happy for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that it's different. In that I've already read the story.
Yes.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's got to be the same as the story." And it's like, well, fucking read the story then, you asshole. It's been around for 50 years.
Yeah, if that's what you want, then go read it.
Yeah, just go read it.
Yeah.
It's out. It's free. It's public domain. You don't need to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I get why people want to see like a movie of the same thing or whatever, because I just don't see how that changes it, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that's like,
Yeah.
like if someone makes a movie and it's 1-to-1 perfectly and a perfect adaptation, it's not a movie because that story isn't that long.
Right.
One.
Yeah.
Two, it'd
be like one episode in a miniseries.
Yeah. Here's the miniseries. How many episodes? Just one.
Just one.
Oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
I'll sit down and watch
and it's
that.
only 1 hour.
Yeah. Like that idea where it's like, well, how do we make a better one? It's like, well, we got to make one first, and it's got to be perfectly, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You should be defining everything as related to everything else in such exact terms.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that it was different. It gave me something new that the story didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just not excited to watch a movie be an exact retelling of anything that I've already experienced.
Yeah, well,
obviously, if I didn't get to see the first one or whatever,
sure,
sure, fine. I mean, I think that's why people hate Disney's current run of creation.
Yeah, the live action adaptations of their original stuff.
Yeah, because they just have this conception of what it quote unquote should be, and whilst that's totally, what's the word? I don't know how words work.
Me either. Tell me.
It's a word used to describe fears that are unvalidated. Like a fear of sharks would be this, since people don't
irrational.
Irrational. I think it's a rational way to divine how people
reach into the void, Joey.
I know. That was us. That was us.
Pull one out.
Fucking pulling the cauldron over and stirring it up until irrational floated to the top. And I was like,
your little SpaghettiO soup letters just spell out irrational in front of you.
And they're all it's just SpaghettiOs. That's when I drown myself in my SpaghettiOs. That's why I'm like, no, I can't carry on.
Yeah.
So I think it's irrational to approach to approach movies like that, where it's like you have an expectation. I get it, but like you can't hold this thing to it. Just watch it, see if you like it. If you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't separate that.
I have no problem with movies being adapted.
Yeah.
To stuff or stories being adapted into film or a remake of a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
If you can tell that there was a level of love and care put into it, and if there's changes made, like that's fine. But like
Disney did that, right? There's lots of like new songs and some of their stuff, and
that's just it. Like I personally haven't enjoyed any of the Disney remakes, but it's not because I think that they don't
do it like the old one or whatever.
They're not a good job.
Yeah.
Or like a good telling of that story. It's
right.
Like because the production
most of them are the same telling of the story, right?
Yeah,
at some level.
It's that like it doesn't land on the same mark for me as the originals did. Sure. And I'm able to recognize, like, this Lion King just isn't the same when you don't get to animate those facial features and stuff of like.
Well, I think that's very specifically a different situation, unfortunately, for Lion King. Like,
absolutely.
Some of the other ones they've done are maybe not as egregious as like.
Yeah, like Beauty and the Beast, like the production quality is insane.
Yeah,
like,
the movie looks really great.
It's gorgeous, right? And like
that's one of the few I've seen.
Yeah, nobody did a bad acting job. But I still there is a certain magic, as people say about Disney films, in the first one that just I can't
I disagree.
Okay. It didn't land.
I'm the
for
only
me.
one who disagrees about magic that Disney had.
Oh, sure.
That's all I was referencing.
Yeah.
I think the new Beauty and the Beast is a better film than the original. At me.
Okay. I will.
Not you. Well, you can.
No,
Go ahead.
I will.
I'm not going to stop you from adding me. Email me. Send me all your hate mail. I don't care. I'm pretty sure I've already gone over it with Star Wars, but I hate a lot of the things that are beloved in this world, in the realm of film. And Beauty and the Beast was never something that I was like desperately in love with as a kid or anything like that. Yeah. I liked it as a kid, just like all kids like kids movies. But I don't think it's something that stayed with me because it doesn't really hold a lot of water. And I don't like musicals, so that part didn't
Oh, I'm with you there.
Attach to me.
I'm with you there.
I wasn't always singing the tunes, and I wasn't a theater kid or a choir kid or any of that stuff. Even though I like to sing, it's sort of a different approach. And so all of the things that usually are like the markers for someone who likes that stuff are missing in my life, and so I don't like those things very much. Yep. You know, I recognize that the originals are fine. I don't think they're bad. I just would never have, if I just didn't know what the world was like and they were like, check out this Disney stuff. What do you think would happen to a universe that was given this stuff? You know, in some chronological order. I would never have guessed it would have led to giant ass theme parks all over the world of consumers just eating things of proportions too large for themselves and just spending all their cash on weird novelty. I would never picture that it was that big, but it's that big. And sure, whatever. Do what you enjoy. I get it, but I just can't see the hype on that. I'm also not a hype person anyways, I guess. So maybe that's a bad phrase.
I was going to say, yeah. You and I are the polar opposites on that spectrum. So
hype machines?
Yeah.
When you get into something you really get into. I mean, I get into stuff, but it's not that's where mine stops. Mine stops at a universe or something. I don't usually get into a thing.
Sure.
I get into skills or hobbies because when I was like, I'm gonna start painting miniatures. I just buy everything I can buy. And I just jump into the water. I don't gradually wade myself in. And usually for movies it's someone like you in my life or somebody else for a different kind of thing that's just hey, do you like Eldritch horror? And then you splash water into my face and it's just Eldritch water and I go that was, I mean, it's warm today, so that was nice. And I don't seek out the ocean that you dipped your bucket into to throw it into my face as much as a lot of people do. Sure. They latch onto a thing and then they, but you definitely, you go hard. Yeah. You showed up with floaties on your arms. Yeah. Before you splashed it in my, face. And I was like, dang, dude, that's a look. And I hit with the water. There, that's my metaphor.
Come on, let's go. And I put my goggles down in my snorkel.
In the mouth. And that's when he climbs into the cauldron of the void. Come on in, Joey.
The blackness is fine.
Just push aside the SpaghettiOs, okay? Yeah. There's room in here for both of us.
There's plenty of existential dread to go around.
I have to go.
You're stuck now.
I like to picture that where you do put the snorkels on, the snorkel in and the goggles on, but you go all the way under, so the snorkel isn't used to breathe at all.
Yeah, I'm just sucking in the void
that's
into my
the
lungs.
reason you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just it's just a feeding tube.
You go in there, and I'm flabbergasted that there's more space in the cauldron than there appears to be on the outside.
Yeah, right.
But then you submerge the snorkel, and then I'm like, all right, this became illogical. I gotta get out of here. What is he even wearing the snorkel for? And my immersion's broken and I'm out of it. That's why I can't get into stuff.
All right, I'll stop snorkeling so you can get in.
It would make me more comfortable if I wasn't the only one without gear.
Yeah.
And you were like, come on in. I'm like, well, I don't have goggles or snorkeling. It's fine.
It's fine.
Doesn't look fine.
Let the waters take you.
Yeah. It's my first trip was without gear too, Joey. Just jump in. And then I find out the story went different later, and you had the well the whole time. And
yeah, the cauldron is my cauldron.
Yeah. Speaking of the cauldron, the Black Cauldron's my favorite animated movie from my youth.
It's a pretty dope one. Honestly, it's highly underrated.
I think it's adequately rated because it's unfinished. It's not a finished movie.
100%.
If that movie was they just let them do what they wanted to and didn't basically cut funding at a certain point and finish that movie,
Yeah.
That's the best film of that era of animation.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you bring that up because that's one that I do enjoy quite a bit too. That I have fond memories of, but like I don't get to talk to a lot of people about how much.
That's probably I didn't realize it. I asked you when you realized you were fucked up, but that's a marker for people around me should have realized I was fucked up because I never reacted negatively to the movie. Like the rest of the world apparently did because it was really dark and had gruesome like animated death scenes, even if they weren't like bloody and gory. They were just like really visceral and detailed, which is why nobody wanted to show that film to their kids except my irresponsible father.
Yeah,
shout out to you for showing me shit I probably shouldn't have seen at that age. But I was into it. I really liked it. Yeah. I quote it still sometimes.
I had another one of those moments the other day, but I don't remember what it was now. But I had that.
Oh, that you were fucked up?
Yeah, that my interests just aren't normal or weren't normal, quote unquote, air quotes there.
This is our like, the show's called The Void Stares Back, but this is us reaching out to the void in the same way that people who like just want to feel like they're not alone do in things. This is our call for help.
Yeah.
But not actual help, just to know that we're not alone.
Don't fix us.
Yeah, just help us by being effed up around us.
Yeah.
But, respect other human beings and don't invade their fucking worlds, you disgusting creatures. You just be fucked up, but keep it to yourself, okay?
Yeah. Don't get any of that on me.
Yeah, when I say fucked up, I don't mean like disgusting criminals, okay? I just mean people who are into some weird shit.
Yeah.
The internet exists, animation exists. You can you can satiate these weird interests and hobbies you have without harming another individual. We talked about that weird movie where people were like murdering turtles to film it and shit like that. Like you don't gotta fucking do that. Not even at that time you didn't have to do that.
No.
And so keep your fucked up shit to yourself.
Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to recommend everybody watch Cannibal Holocaust, but at the same time there's a part of me that says don't put yourself through that because it's really traumatizing. Even for someone who likes really weird, messed up stuff.
Well, I mean, it would be something to say, like, go watch The Thing, and then somebody goes to watch it, and then they're like, oh, that was crazy. Those special effects were crazy. And then the other guy goes, oh, no, that was all real.
Yeah.
That ruins that movie. If like, people were murdered and mashed into bits, obviously, that movie doesn't look like it wasn't real.
No, yes.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't matter. Insert film here. If the special effects of all the murder and the gore was real, that movie's horrifying.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because people can separate that, despite what they have to say about video game violence. That's the end of my rant about like 7 different like issues from I don't know the 90s, the politics of the 90s.
Yeah. Yep.
Glad we sorted that out 20 years later.
So how about that color? Speaking of weird stuff, how about that color like pouring out of that lady's face?
That's why I love that scene. Everything about that scene was incredible.
Yeah, that was really great. She's actually like reaching still. She's a moment where she's like actually like, help me, please. Yeah, at the very end.
I don't know if it was help me. It could have been like, get over here. I'm gonna eat you too.
That could be.
She was full ghoul.
She's the size of that wasp.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That scene made me uncomfortable.
Dude, me too. Yeah, I don't like bees or bugs in general. And
well, I like bees as much as someone who would die if they stung them can. I think bees are really cool, and luckily, given that I almost died from a bee sting in my past, I've educated myself about bees enough to know that they're pretty great outside of Africa. And in Africa, there's only one kind of bee that will fuck you up. In which case, might as well call them wasps because they just act like wasps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like bees a lot. In that I like insects a lot.
Actually, yeah, I like knowing about them.
Oh, I even like being around them.
Yeah.
Bees.
You can take them. You can take all the insects.
I'll take them. Yeah. Bees are the weird, because bees are the weird one because I could die if things go badly and I overstep my bounds or something I do is interpreted incorrectly. It could be bad. And luckily modern medicine makes that fear kind of go away. Like it'll be scary in the moment, I'm sure, but I can't avoid that. It's all about
context, right? Like if you're out alone and you can't get back in time, then it's real bad. But yeah, if you're around people,
there's no getting back in time for me because it's not just like your body treats their sting as poisonous. it's because I have asthma.
Oh, yeah.
That it's doubly bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'll die of not being able to breathe before
Yes.
I die of any sort of weird allergy,
Mm-hmm.
enhanced allergy thing.
Yep.
But all that aside, that was a wasp, and those are just evil.
Yes.
And
incarnate.
Could be removed from the ecosystem, and it'd be just fine. I had a shed growing up where, and I don't know that there's any sort of, because there's no Latin in the words I'm about to say, so I don't really know what these bees are called, or these wasps are called. But we called them mud daubers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they build horrifying mud huts
Yep.
with little holes in them. And we had a shed out in our backyard that always had them.
You're echoing an experience I lived with when
Yep.
I was a kid too. So
Was this back before you moved out here? Did you talk
Before
about having grown up in a different state and that sort of thing?
So yeah, fortunately or unfortunately for me, both places.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know
Yeah.
where they exist and in
Yeah,
what
no,
capacity.
we had a little shed, like garden shed, at the old house in Wyoming, where I was born and grew up a little bit. And we had mud daubers out there, and then we have
They're just everywhere.
we have a big old shed in our backyard. Well, my folks' place, in Illinois here, and also mud daubers out there. So
Yeah, I have a feeling that like wasps, species to species of wasps, probably construct crude mud homes over across the spectrum.
Yeah.
And that our terminology is just indirectly describing two separate kinds of wasps on accident.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
I've
I don't
heard
know
the
that they're
term
same.
used outside of just like a casual conversation too. Like I've read it in
Oh,
places.
okay.
So I think it is a term, an official term on some level.
Yeah, it might be like a subcategory of wasps that
Yeah.
make mud homes or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just like you, if you saw this and you never interacted with the wasp in your life, if you just saw a little like dome on a ceiling in a rafter with little holes in it made of mud, it's not scary looking.
No.
Just as an object, it's not a scary object. But now, if I were to see that within the context of my full life, those are horrifying.
Yeah.
You're like, you immediately feel like you get the spine twinge, and then you're out. You got to leave that space. And for me, I usually notice those things too late in closed, like the shed, in closed environments. And it's not, because usually that the flight or fight is a thing like that people have. I think I don't have that, which is probably a bad thing, because
maybe
I still have
challenged enough.
Well, I don't have lots of like serious fears, I think, that like usually cause it, or I haven't found them yet. They're waiting for me, just on the brink of sanity. I still have the flight part, but I'm like really control over myself, I guess, because when I see it, I get the freaking like nails on a chalkboard thing without the sound, and then I proceed to just carefully tiptoe myself out of that so I don't aggravate. I think I don't have it because they're fucking wasps, and if I just sprinted out of there, they might chase me down and kill me, and quote unquote kill me. I mean, I'd probably be fine with wasps, but I don't know, especially given that it's not like a giant nest.
Yeah.
So it's survivable.
Right.
But yeah, those particular domes of mud now create a different response in my brain when I see them, as if I built like a gross mud dome at the beach or something out of wet sand. I don't know.
How did we get on that?
The wasp on her frickin' head.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I watched a lot of this movie just kind of accidentally, because I just kind of woke up recently before we started. Curled up into a little ball. I just got myself comfortable on the couch.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a mistake. Because when the uncomfortable moments of the movie happened, I was like already like in like kind of an arms crossed position. And then like at times I would notice later, like not during. And then like this hand was like squeezing onto my elbow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I can stop squeezing my elbow now.
Yeah, right.
And that was one of those scenes.
Yeah, you just tensed up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they even gave you a sound effect.
They did.
She turned around and was like, and then here's a zoomed up like CG wasp on her head
with multiple eyes,
and it's huge.
Huge.
It's as big as your hand.
Like a foot long, almost. Like
is a big boy.
Ugh.
And then he's just like, yeah, I got this. He takes his hat off and is like, well, I'm the king of this forest. Not anymore, you're not. One wasp is the king of that forest, let alone like the bajillions we see later in a shot of them above the tree line flying out. And the sound of buzzing.
Yeah, that was terrifying. Yeah.
That shot wasn't terrifying before the CG shot.
Yeah.
That was just like, insects are leaving the forest maybe? But no, we see a giant-ass wasp, and now they're just like...
Yeah, because then you realize what they are, and you're like, oh my God.
I was happy to see the scene of all the dead animals. I was like, maybe the wasps are dead now too. Maybe it got everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the scene with the mummy.
Yes.
That scene is so good.
Yeah.
It was like the camera motion, the pitch, like the Dutch angle or whatever they call it, of the room, and like what was his name? Armin.
Yeah.
Was like fucking drenched in sweat.
Yeah.
Like he was freaking out.
Because he just saw the kid. Like
and like had a coughing fit and like that whole
trying not to vomit and stuff, and
generally spooked by everything that's going on, and he's like he picks up a broom and like doesn't want to get close to her.
Oh, yeah, it was wild. It was really good. Very well done.
And then he hides in the closet from the color.
Yeah.
And then like we're unclear what he could see from that outside of just the color, but we get to see a shot outside of the cabinet of like the color absorb her.
Yeah.
Like
brushes across her corpse at that point and like absorbs whatever's left of her.
Goes to the skull a little bit and it cuts away before we get to see whatever else happens. And then it like
goes through the floorboards.
Slips through the cracks in the floorboards.
Yeah. That was pretty wild. And some of it comes from outside.
Yeah. We get a shot of the dew.
Too. Yeah.
And so it's like attached to the water in some way, or at least it operates like water in this film.
Yes.
And it's like on the grass.
Yep.
Which is the only other close-up shot we get of foliage of some kind.
Yeah. That was cool to see that it like has, I don't know if I should say consciousness, but like it, every bit of it, everywhere is actually interconnected, and it all came together to do this one thing, and then, probably spread back out after it goes through the floorboards.
It's definitely it's definitely a different approach to the way that Lovecraft's like
describes it. Yeah.
Because he doesn't describe it, but he gives us like all these little moments that help us interpolate what it can do / has done, and it appears to be like an object as opposed to something like the way that this film shows it, because it brushes past Ami and the story, and like it appears to be in the room before he gets there and has to leave through the door, and like things like this, and like it interacts with the world downstairs in the he's hearing all these thuds and things move around while he's frozen on the stairs, and just some of this is less. Didn't appear to be the way that this particular color interacts with the world around it.
Corporeal,
Yeah.
So
like a poltergeist, and then this one's more like bees, like a hive mind thing, or ants or something.
Yeah.
Or it's like you say, just a single entity, like a fourth dimensional situation where we're just seeing what we see in the third dimension of it.
Yeah, but
it moves, and it's all the bits that we see is not connected are actually part of the same object.
Thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. It was a really, really neat take on it. So
there was a lot of like shots in the movie that made it seem like the budget was low, and that they were conscious decisions to not have to show stuff while still like servicing the story or whatever. Yeah, because we get a lot of shots of people reacting to things they're doing to stuff.
Yes,
like the meteorite. We never get to see the globule that gets broken.
Right.
We get to be the globule.
Yeah, we get that shot from inside the stone.
And that might like pertain very specifically to something that I'll bring up in a second, but yeah, we get to see like shots of people looking down at stuff from positions we don't get to see the things they're looking at, but we get to hear the story describe what it is. Like the globule gets described. They didn't even use the word globule in this whole movie, which is curious because that story in Lovecraft used it like 12 times.
Yep.
But yeah, perhaps there's just no German word for globule.
Maybe not.
Makes a lot of sense to me that would be the case. But that camera stuff makes me feel like And I didn't pay attention to this during the film to like track when it occurs, but like I think they gave the color a character with some scenes. And that it comes from the globule. Because we get to see from inside the globule.
Right.
There's like a distorted glass effect, and we get to crack when he first hits it.
Yep.
And then it disappears.
Yeah.
And there's no description because some amount of time passes.
Yes. Yes, a whole like season almost, right?
No, I meant during the scientists' visits.
Oh, yes.
It's like a couple weeks or something, like where they keep coming back.
Yeah.
And nothing has gone wrong or weird with the environment yet, other than the giant crater. And then the globule breaks, and then the story begins, basically. And so it seems like an egg situation.
Yeah, it does.
Which the original story had a little bit of. But,
a little bit.
Or at least that was a reasonable theory to have about it. That, you know, it was brought by the meteor, which is theoretically, you know, a metaphor for an egg.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But this one I felt nailed it more home because during the first half of the initial credits, we get that same perspective shot again of it going through the piping system to Arkham.
Yes.
We get shots from under the well of it waking up and rising out of the well.
Yes.
And passing over the water line in the well.
Yeah.
And like all these things that are like differently shot. But most likely because they're like partly CG, I imagine. In like the camera movement stuff.
Yes, yeah.
The way that the camera moves. And we get that a couple random times throughout the film. And I'm just curious if that appears to add up. Or I'm also curious if any of those shots exist in the present day.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like especially during the shots where we get to see old man, the father.
Yes.
Like cuz the movie opens up with him like falling into the river, and then we find him later and he's fine and
yeah, that was
intact,
weird.
or
yeah,
who knows what he was falling into, I guess.
The void.
But yeah, I'm just curious if there's any like weird shots of like from the forest.
Yeah, I don't remember
that really were like that you could have observed initially as a viewer as like B-roll or like the setup shots or whatever they're called, but were actually like like the cheesy like it's the monster and this is what the monster's like the werewolf in the forest and this is what he gets to see kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember any distinctly, but yeah, I'll have to pay attention on my next viewing.
For sure, man. I'd be curious.
Yep.
Because like, you know, a big part of Lovecraft story is that it's not gone. And that's not a huge part here other than that Armin or whatever is still around.
Right. Yep.
I don't know.
Me either.
Curious thing. Curious thing.
I liked the it was just a really small thing, but when Armin comes to the house right before he sees all the stuff going on inside, like the mom is the mummy and all this other stuff.
Sure.
He's walking up and like there's actual ash like in the air around the house.
Yeah.
That was a cool just little touch.
I think a lot of the scenes were really great. When we got the season changes, like the moment that it changed to winter and we got to see like the whole area covered in snow, and then likewise with yours where we get to see like the ash floating in the air and it being like otherworldly now all of a sudden.
Yeah, like this whole place is just like it's very secluded and undergoing this state that nothing else is.
There's a good way to deliver that in a movie, black and white.
Yeah, I
the
thought
world
so
would
too.
be gray.
I think that's why it impacted me so much because it was a very subtle thing that like told you a lot. So yeah.
We never get, and maybe we do, and I'm just sort of oblivious to it, but I feel like we never really get a good shot for spatial orientation of where the meteor crater is.
We didn't. I was kind of trying to pay attention a little bit to that too, and
in relation to just everything.
Yeah.
Like clearly from Armin's house, we get the impression that it's quite far. Because we get a shot from his house that sees the thing he looks at.
Yeah, he's out in like the field. We're kind of like right next to his home, and it's like way far off.
Yeah.
So,
which makes sense with the way the story talks about how he has to ride his horse.
Yes.
A decent amount to get.
Yeah, in the book. Yeah.
Get there. So I figured he wasn't super close, but yeah, I just never had a good idea of where.
Yeah.
their little farmhouse was in relation to the actual crater.
If I had to guess, a lot of his personal farmland that he had, like the grove and stuff on and everything, is situated between the crater and his home. And then he probably has more beyond, which is where the hill is that that the stuff isn't affected by, because it hasn't reached that far yet. You know?
That's how I pictured it in the story too.
Yeah. So,
but the story, I think, did a lot better job of making it clear that it was actually like really close to the outside of their house.
Yes. Yeah.
And like the moment that we see the original telling of that story, when old man tells us the story of it started with a meteor and we get the shot of it coming down. It's like a massive explosion.
Yeah.
And like he talks about the forest being on fire and how he can't get to it. And so it makes me think that it wasn't really that close. It was just in the forest somewhere near the farms, which is fine. But the crater was also not, it wasn't really like a crater would be in real life.
No.
Which is either
I was
just a limitation of, kind of how that kind of goes, or for like movie making process wise, or if it was like, this is a weird crater. Isn't it a weird meteor too? And look at all this alien stuff. It's crazy.
I feel like it's probably more the former.
Yep.
And especially in the context.
Well, you don't want to give him extra credit?
Not this time.
Not this time. You fucked up.
Yeah.
You got what you deserved already. All the adulation before. How did you feel about the way that they filmed it leaving?
Oh, that it's
different than in the story.
Very.
Because we just don't get access to a shot from space in the story, and this one it like actively is traveling through space. It's not like just
pouring into the sky as it's described in the book.
Evaporating from like existence and dimensionality as we understand it.
Well, and because in the story, the way he describes it is a lot of it's fresh in my brain because I was skimming through it the other day in preparation to re-record
doesn't the sky pour open into a sky that they're unfamiliar with as well?
Yeah. Basically, the clouds just make a hole. Mm-hmm. And the trees all around are like reaching up towards that hole, and it pours through into the hole, and then they can't see anything else. So like, we don't know really if it's just space or if it's like another dimension or a parallel universe or whatever this thing is.
I would have loved to see that scene because we get not necessarily as you described it, but of the tree part.
Yes,
that would have been sweet.
I agree. Yeah,
we just get to see it come out of the dirt. Mm-hmm. And it was more like a war scene where they're like all the soldiers are running and there's like shells landing, but except they're coming out of the earth instead of into the earth.
Yeah, yeah. Which was a nice,
it was cool
kind of flip on that sort of scene.
Yeah,
it was cool, but
ripping out of the earth.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was definitely hoping for that description in the story of it pouring like liquid into the sky.
Yeah,
has stuck with me since I read it, 12
I think that's
years ago.
Probably why they went with the way that it looks.
Oh, absolutely.
With the little water surface tension stuff that they were doing with the CG.
I totally agree. I just was like really anticipating that visually, and it's not that, and that's fine.
I didn't even think about it till after. So
yeah, and that's fine. I didn't dislike what they did.
Yeah.
And it fit with how they made it act throughout the whole film up to that point. So it didn't like break.
Wasn't tough to place.
Yeah, it didn't break anything for me. I also like that like the bottom of it actually had little tentacle appendages.
Yeah, it was a vague form that it had some kind of form.
Yeah, it was cool.
It also looked like as it left, some of those like small bits that were following behind were sort of being left behind in some capacity as well.
Yeah, and they also went off in like different directions.
Yeah, they weren't following the exact path.
Yeah.
It's curious.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. But yeah, overall, I liked that sequence. I thought, and it was nice to see it.
It describes more that it's an alien than that it's an alternate dimensional thing, or question mark. Right. It sort of just says there's no question mark. It's some weird alien we just can't understand.
Yep. Which is actually in a lot of Lovecraft stories the case. Mm-hmm. Most of his stuff is just another life form from somewhere else that we just don't get,
right?
And
well, I just mean like because that's what aliens are in non-Lovecraft stories. They're just beings from probably across the star, undefined, like xenomorphs, like maybe they are not just from other planets in the traditional sense compared to a Lovecraftian story where it's just, we don't get that part of the story. We get that in a lot of alien content where we get to see a ship show up with stuff on it, or something like that.
Yeah.
With traditional sci-fi stuff. But if like, I don't know, like Twilight Zone shit where it's a flying saucer shows up, like that's theoretically just unknown origin, right? You can assume that they were like humans and they came about on a planet somewhere in the stars. But maybe they didn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just it's an interesting thing that there's like a gap there where we bridge that gap with an alien story.
Right.
Where we're like, they're from this universe. They're just strange to us.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that confirmed?
Yeah.
I never really like challenged that, but I don't think it ever really is confirmed, except in moments where we have like actual contact and they tell us things like, we're from the Andromeda galaxy, or is what you would know it as the country, and like, or whatever. And you're like, oh, that's a place I know.
Yeah.
It's a place I can look at.
Yeah.
We've photographed that place. Billions of years old. These photographs are old because light takes a long time to travel.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's curious.
I think so too. But
speaking of light traveling, I don't know why I just thought of it, but it just always gets my goat, as they say. But I like to imagine that, like it's really cool that there are stories about like aliens visiting from places that we can see in stories of fiction of any kind. And I like the idea that, let's say the aliens live, in a one of Betelgeuse's, which is a star, Betelgeuse's satellites, planets, something. They hang out there. But these aliens have developed like wormhole tech and can fold space on itself to move, quote unquote, faster than light through space.
Yeah.
I like to think that if we looked at Betelgeuse now and then they showed up, the images we have of Betelgeuse are older than them. Isn't that cool?
That's pretty great, yeah. Yeah.
I like to think about stuff like that.
I was going to say, that's a fun little thing to ponder over.
Yeah. It's billions and billions of year old light that we're photographing, and these guys like instantaneously show up, and they're like, we've only been around for like 100 million years. And like, that's not enough. Here's this photo of you guys before you were born. And you guys are more advanced than us, or whatever. Fun stuff. I just feel like that's the kind of thing that those sorts of stories don't really, they're not about that.
Yeah.
They're just about the contact part. And I just want more. I'm excited about the weird details of how they got to us and insert other stuff. I don't know.
Right.
This is where my brain goes. This is mostly a context story for how Joey thinks. And the things that Joey likes in stories.
I like to talk about the way people think. So
yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Because I certainly don't have all the perspectives. I barely have my own.
And yet you're trying to lure me into the void cauldron, dude.
Yeah, man. It's because it's perspectiveless.
Oh,
it's
yeah?
just empty.
I thought it was all
open.
Perspectives at once.
I mean, that too.
Rips open your brain against your will.
Hi, cat.
Don't touch me. I wish I was allergic to you. So I'd have a reason that you shouldn't touch me.
She wouldn't adhere to that, though.
Oh, I know, but I would actually have a more aggressive response and be like, no, this actually can't happen.
Yeah.
And here it's mostly just, I don't want you to love me, because that comes with responsibility on my end, and I'm not looking for that. From most animals. Cats are too roll the dice for me.
Yeah.
Dogs are consistent for the most part across the board, and when they're not, the ones that won't be, like Chihuahuas and like shitty angry dogs that are usually tiny. Chihuahuas are the worst, and I know I know there's some Chihuahuas that aren't the worst. I get it. If you're a Chihuahua like owner and you've got a nice one, you won the lottery there, or you just really trained the shittiness out of it. But they're just kind of aggressive animals.
Sure,
they're like I think they're like up there with one of the most aggressive dog breeds. Just period. Like people like attribute that to things like pit bulls because they're scarier.
Yeah, which pit bulls
which
are
is
like
just not
super,
true.
Yeah, I would say they're super lovey. So
they just happen to be like statistically attracted to the kind of owners that foster horrible environments for pets. Probably. I think it's probably just accidental. They're like they're fucking meaty and scary looking, so drug dealers acquire them, and then like I don't know. I mean, I guess these days drug dealers are actually just normal people,
normal folk.
But back in the day,
the stereotypical drug dealer, that you think of from like the 70s
needs to protect his meth house, with a pit bull or something. It's not a good reason to have a dog, or any animal for that matter.
Street gangs from the 90s.
But yeah, at least dogs are mostly consistent in that regard. But I don't know. You could love on a cat, and then it ends up only liking you.
Yes,
and that's good for you.
I mean, I live with that right now.
I mean, that cat likes you.
She likes that I feed her.
I mean, I meant compared to like most people it gets a chance to interact with. I think like
I guess that's true.
You're given graces that are like, don't touch me. Like Swifty tries to love on the cat. It doesn't always go down.
Yeah.
Cat's just like, nah, I don't know who you are. Strange bearded man. Don't touch me.
She's like, I only like those other two bearded men.
Yeah. Your beard's different. Get away.
Yeah.
Why was it? Oh, the cat just showed up.
Alien life.
Aliens. Cats.
Yeah.
Are they the same? Yeah. Here's my TED Talk about why.
If you go to Ulthar, they are.
I mean, luckily, they're not very strong in Ulthar.
No. You
just probably shouldn't mess with them.
Yeah.
They're like a protected species.
Yes.
You'll get arrested if you mess with them.
Arrested into the loam of the earth.
Shrug? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Never seen from again.
All right. Eaten by cats.
Mysterious. And that one beetle in the corner of the room.
That's the real culprit. The beetle. That's the detail everybody missed in the detective story.
I know they didn't spend enough time describing it, but what probably happened is it scurried around suspiciously as if it was the criminal.
If there's a film adaptation of that, the beetle's in every shot somewhere in the background.
And it's like running. Mm-hmm. Presumably because we would go like, oh, that's just what beetles do. But from the beetle's perspective, it's like, the fucking feds are here. It crawls into the nearest crevice.
And then we get a small montage at the very end that reveals that it was the beetle.
Crawling through a pipe, and then it shows up in Arkham. The same shot in black and white.
Yes. You just hear the whole time. Yeah.
That's like, sorry if this is like aggravating something that you have like general fear about, because that's a sound people like.
Oh, really? Oh, I do that all the time. I didn't.
Not necessarily the way we do it, but like the way that movies like.
Oh, sure.
Create like bugs.
Yes.
Because people are just generally afraid of bugs. Like insert any bug, they're probably afraid of it because it's a bug.
Yeah.
And that's like a sound that's synonymous with bugs.
Especially in horror films, the bug sound is the really fast violin.
Oh, sure.
And that totally makes people
paired with it.
Yeah, that makes people's skin crawl too.
Sure. I love violins too much.
Me too. I love that sound.
This movie had a good deal of it, actually.
Oh, I actually really enjoyed the soundtrack to this movie. The score was fantastically done.
Seemed good.
Yeah. Not overly complicated. It's pretty simple stuff, but like just really effective. So.
Yeah, it reminds me of like what makes a good soundtrack or whatever, and that's different for everybody, right? That answer to that is different for everybody.
Super subjective.
Because you are the type of person who acquires the soundtrack to listen to in your free time.
Absolutely, yeah. I just absorb every bit of it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And some people are like, "Oh, that was just really good," but I'm never.
Yeah.
That's it. It lives in the movie. When I watch the movie, I get to hear it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people are like, "I didn't notice it." It's not like it obviously didn't take me out of it, but it's not.
Hard for me to have conversations with those type of people.
Wait, there was music?
Yeah, I didn't notice.
I didn't have my headphones plugged in.
It was so good. Like that scene doesn't even exist without that soundtrack. Like,
well, what I was gonna say is, to give you context of where I fall into that, this soundtrack is not something that I could emulate necessarily as like a catchy song on the radio kind of a way.
Yeah.
But it clearly didn't break me out of it and was married very well. And I noticed like some of the things like the violins being prominent in certain moments for scary purposes. But a soundtrack like Annihilation soundtrack, lives with me forever now, and regardless of whether I'm watching. I've only seen the movie the one time for the cast. I've never watched it again. And like, what an incredible soundtrack.
Oh, it's fantastic. I listen to it a lot.
It's really good.
Yeah.
That's the end of that spiel. I don't really know I don't know how best to describe why that's the case for me, other than I just have responded to it in a certain way.
It just resonated with you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Did somebody famous do that one? Sounds like it could have been Inception guy kind of music, you know?
I don't know.
You don't have to look it up.
I don't know off the top of my head, but yes.
Who did Inception? He's super famous.
Hans Zimmer.
That's
he
his
did not
name.
do the Annihilation one.
It's the kind of like...
Yeah.
It sounds like something that a composer would be famous for having that kind of a sound.
Yes. Yeah.
And it probably isn't. It's probably just for the movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just really good.
Yeah. When a lot of the stuff was done that sounds like instrument in that, it's all vocals and stuff, which is great.
That's very common.
It is, but
not necessarily vocal to just something sounds a certain way, but is used in a different context.
Yes. Yeah.
Micro editing sound files and stuff.
I really liked how the score in this one was also used effectively by not being there in certain instances. Like, took it out the moment Armin gets to the house before he goes upstairs and then comes back.
Yeah, that whole scene was really quiet.
Completely without music at all.
It just lets him call out
effective.
Nahum's name.
Yeah.
With no response for a while.
Him just like very slowly walking around that house in dead quiet was super effective.
Yeah.
Made the tension in that scene work really well. So
that scene was also so like, you know, I don't pay attention to it in the time that it's occurring, like most things in movies, but I just want to make a note that it was done very well. Is like spatial stuff. You know, I talked about not knowing where the meteor is, and that's something that you could show off. And we talked about it in our episode 2, I think, which is
The Void.
The Void.
Yeah.
Where I had a really big issue with the spatial recognition of that one scene.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, it's just there. It's not like I didn't personally have that feeling. It's just there's missing information that we surmised probably wasn't what they hoped for it to have, and like maybe there weren't shots they could reshoot and something didn't work, or they didn't consider a thing, or whatever the reason is fine. But I find that that's really important, because it's one of those things that's secret. You don't get to know that it's happening, but it makes your brain just understand what it's looking at all times. Yes. And so I'm just sort of kind of become hyper aware to that a lot of the times. And that entire scene does an incredible job with very little, like other than the choices made for where the shots are, to give me an idea of how that house is organized. Yes. That first shot where he approaches like the room where Nahum is, in his little blanket. There's like the subtlest of like angles on the foreground like shadow that tells me that's the stairs.
That's stairs. Yes. Yep.
Fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Because every other shot that shows where the stairs are, it's walled. It's a walled off staircase. So you don't get to see that it's stairs.
Right.
And so you don't know that unless there's that like subtlest of little hints that it's the staircase. It
just gives you that really slight angle. That
so important.
Yeah.
And I noticed that while I was watching it. I was like, this is a really important shot.
Yeah.
And I just know it's going to be. And whilst the scene went on, where it kept cutting back to Nahum looking into the room.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Armin looking into the room, and from Nahum's perspective of him in the doorway.
Yep.
The perspective from Nahum of the doorway, I would never, I kept doubting. I'm like, maybe it isn't a staircase there, and we're going to cut.
It's just wall.
Yeah. And I was just like, I was like, I'm going to trust my gut, my first gut about that opening shot, and I was right.
Yep.
Like, just that all of the spacing in those shots were really, really well done.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I just wanted to praise that moment because it stood out to me while I was watching it.
Yeah. Which
is not usually how it goes for this show. Usually we're like, oh, that did happen, and then we talk about a thing.
Yep.
I don't know. Got anything else you want to talk about from the movie or otherwise?
I'm just excited to see the next adaptation.
Yeah.
And how that
modern version.
Yep. It takes place modern day. I know a lot of the names are changed and stuff. So, and the family is changed. So,
Like the composition of the family.
It's now there's not 3 boys anymore. There's
is there still 3 kids?
8. No, there's, as far as I understand, there's just 2 kids.
Oh, okay.
There's a little boy, looks maybe like somewhere between 4 and 6.
Like Merwin?
Yeah, and then a teenage daughter. So
okay. I another note that's superficial about this movie is Merwin's haircut is the best haircut in the
it's pretty great.
I love his haircut. It's like so punk rock.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also blonde as shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, dang.
It actually reminds me of a person I work with, one of her kids. So, yeah. Okay. Look, he just looked very similar. Facial structure.
Oh, sure.
And she has some German, but her kids she married a man in Germany and had their kids over there before she moved back to the States. And
do they have dual citizenship? Or?
Yes, they do. Yeah,
so it's different from country to country, so I wasn't sure.
And like looking at this kid in the movie, I was like, yes, that looks like a German young lad.
Oh, sure.
Like it was perfect. But he young lad, yes.
But a wee lad.
But yeah, haircut and everything and facial structure reminded me a lot of one of her kids, and I was just like, oh, this is
there you go.
Kind of a weird relating experience I'm having right now. It's like, no, don't throw him in the well.
The movie was already over when he was getting thrown in the well.
I know.
Don't throw him in the well.
Yeah.
I thought something crazier was going to happen when he retrieved the coin.
I thought so too. It was
nice to not see anything, but I was like, he looked at the bucket. Are we going to get the scene where he goes out for water? Because that's what because that's what that scene was. It just gets cut in this movie.
Yes.
He goes out with a bucket and a lantern in the story, and that's when they talk about it being melted. Or
Yeah, and there's just no trace of him, and yeah.
So that's the last time we get to see him.
Yep.
It's kind of a weird, sad moment because the implication of that whole scene is that Merwin, he lost the bet to clean his mother.
Mm-hmm.
But Thaddeus never returns with the water to clean their mother.
Right.
Or to bathe their mom. And who's already catatonic in some capacity. And comes back in hysterics, basically, which sort of delivers a bit of trauma that we get to see Merwin have in the stairwell.
Yep.
Or whatever. And then he visits his older brother, and he's all sweaty and steaming in that scene, which was really cool.
Yeah, I thought so too.
His hand is twitching, and he's murmuring in his sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And Merwin finds his coin that he used to bet whether on who would have to go get the water and who would have to bathe on the ground next to his bed, and then proceeds to take the bucket that's also in the room with Thaddeus. And the implication, I think, there is that Merwin is upset that his older brother is, sick. Because that's the last thing that's told to Merwin about what happened to his mother.
Yes.
From Nahum.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to get wood kindling from the
and
forest.
he comes back and
has
says,
a weird experience in the forest, seeing the trees move with no wind. And then he asks what's wrong with his mom, and he says, and Nahum tells him he's sick. Then he asks what's wrong with the trees, and Nahum just doesn't say anything and walks away.
Keeps going,
and then Merwin follows, which was a cool scene too.
Mm-hmm.
But he after that scene, Nahum goes back to the forest, assumably because of what Merwin said and his own suspicions about stuff.
Yeah.
Interacts with a mushroom.
Yeah, that
disintegrates in his hand, and he's kind of freaking out about it.
Yeah.
And then Thaddeus starts screaming.
Yeah.
And he runs out, and the whole thing incurs. But all that to say, that scene where he grabs the bucket is I think the beat missed, at least for me at the time, but it's like a really sweet scene of the young brother being like sad about his older brother's condition, and seeing that he was like dripping sweat and steaming was like, I'm gonna wash my older brother. Yeah. Like give him a bath was the implication of that whole scene. And I think it missed at the time. I didn't really realize exactly what was going on, other than like a young boy's curiosity, because he wasn't allowed to see Thaddeus when he was brought in, and he was worried. But it's like a really weirdly touching scene that doesn't, I think it doesn't land perfectly.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I agree. Yeah, because like same thing when I first saw it, I was like, oh, he's just gonna go out and get water from the well now. That's it. And but upon reflection, like that is a really good sequence. It just
because in the story,
it's not super potent,
right? Not enough context of why he would do that stuff. Just during, but in the story, he's not. No, there's no bathing going on in the story ever, so it's always to fetch water for drinking purposes.
Yes,
and so he goes out there to do that, and then vanishes in the story. Yeah, but no, that was cool.
I agree.
It also makes that last scene where Armin is there even creepier.
Yeah, more messed up. Yeah,
because that was at night. When he goes out to get the water for Thaddeus, his bath, and Armin's there helping him out, quote unquote.
Oh man, yeah.
Also, slight difference from the original story is that this well in the movie is made of wood.
Yes, and it's
entirely
it's made of stone in the actual book. Yep.
Yeah, the actual rim of the well is made of stone.
We get the plop from it, the color going back in, and Armin thinks it's a stone. Or Ami
and in this one, we get a soldier throw a rock in.
Yep.
Anyways, I thought it was great. Good movie.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely did not disappoint.
Yeah. So. If you're into this whole thing for the Lovecraftian eldritch stuff, this will deliver.
Yeah.
If you're worried about it not being a modern film, I think you're going to have a lot of trouble watching movies in this realm, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Whether it's an indie film that just doesn't have the budget.
Yeah.
Or if it's something that really shows its age, like something like this.
Yep.
Yeah, because if that's going to be a hiccup for you,
you're
not going to get through it. It's going to be there the whole time.
Yeah. I was going to say, your pool of films that will do it for you is going to be very shallow.
Right.
So
I think just generally, even with modern films, like...
Yeah.
A lot of modern films are not great, but that's because like it's not about whether it's a modern film or an old film. It's about how well it was crafted. Right? Yeah. That's why Hitchcock's films hold up these days, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's the implication. I haven't seen any. I
don't know if any of his fit. So
yeah, I probably never will. I think the only one that's like really famous that I would want to watch at some point is Crows. Is it called?
The Birds.
The Birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. I just think there's lots of really funny scenes in it these days.
Oh, yeah.
Like the birds, like quote unquote harassing people in the streets, but it's like really cheesy to look at and like kind of funny. But I just hear that as a reference in a lot of places. It's like really important to filmmaking and really inspirational to filmmakers that are doing it now, even. And I'd like to make films. I've mentioned this before at some point in my life, at least once. Try it.
Sure.
Because it's a huge project, and I don't have enough passion, I think, to like make a career out of it. Probably.
Yeah.
But I'd like to do some serious amount of filmmaking, whether it's short films or whatever, at some point in life. Because I'm more interested in animation stuff.
Yeah.
So I just think that comes kind of hand in hand because they require the same considerations, you know, for constructing a film before it's made. It's just how it's made after that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think I'll probably have to watch it then. That's why I was saying. Start watching some random important to-film films kind of things.
Yep.
And then dive in. Fully inspired. That way I can inject a Hitchcock pull into every shot. The science behind that is sweet. There's a reason it's it got spammed in every horror film ever.
Yeah.
It's a great shot. It's a great look. Very stylistic.
Yeah, Kubrick did a lot of that too.
Tons of it, yeah. Kubrick's Space Oddity or Odyssey.
Yeah.
And
Shining. And Eyes Wide Shut and Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, so he's made a lot of like really
random question
milestone films in the genre. So
about The Shining.
Yeah. Does that fit?
That wasn't the question.
Oh.
I mean, you can answer that question, I guess.
I think it might.
Okay. I mean, it's about madness at some level, right?
Yeah.
Like, whether it manifests the same way, I don't know. But
I think it gives off an appropriate Lovecraftian vibe.
I also understand that it has some questions about it when you dig that way.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because is that the actual like canon for what's his name?
I don't.
He's a director, filmmaker dude. He does a lot of stuff that's like super hit or miss. He did Signs.
Oh, Shyamalan?
Shyamalan. Is that like related in his headcanon for like Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and that trilogy?
The Shining? I don't think so.
Not the movie, but like the idea of being special.
Oh.
In those films. Are those related? I feel like I've heard called like The Shining in the film or something like that, or maybe it's not in the film, but
I don't think
like the gift that these people have is like referred to as something.
Oh.
They all share it.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Is it called The Shining?
It's not.
Okay.
I can tell you very safely that it's not.
I feel like I heard that somewhere, and it made me think like how that's all possibly connected.
I've seen Unbreakable and Split, but I haven't watched Glass yet. But I'm very excited to watch
Glass. Glass is the one that like connects it all, right?
Yeah, it's the third one that because Split. Spoilers, like everybody.
This whole cast is spoilers.
Yeah, but just like spoilers within spoilers now. Yeah, Unbreakable came out first, and it was its own thing.
Yeah,
and then Split happened, and 99.9999% of that movie is its own thing, and then you get this tiny little shot at the end where Bruce Willis's character from Unbreakable is in a diner at the end, watching the news about what happened in the events of the movie.
Right.
Before that. And then Glass puts all three characters back together. Like, and
I think the word I think the
movie.
term that I'm thinking about that they're all referred to have as a gift is from Glass.
Oh,
they use it in that movie.
Okay, that's probably it then, because
I feel like it's Shining.
I would be surprised. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't.
Well, if you haven't seen it,
I was gonna say, right, but I haven't read anything about that.
I haven't read anything either. I walked by the movie being played in my family's home.
Okay.
They were watching the last one.
Yeah, it's weird. I just was holding it in my hand today at work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thinking about it?
Thinking about, I was like, man, I really sad I missed this in the theaters. Like, I was really hyped.
Sure.
And still haven't watched it yet. I need to watch this. So.
Let me know. I mean, when you get around to watching it, if
it's one of my favorite roles for
any
Samuel
weird
Jackson.
Connection.
So.
Oh, sure.
Is Dr. Glass.
Kooky character.
Yeah.
From a couple scenes I saw.
Yeah, it's cool. I think you'd like Unbreakable quite a bit.
Well, probably.
You probably like both of them, honestly, and assumedly then the third one as well. But Unbreakable itself is just
that was just
very great.
It was great before it. Yeah. There was a ploy to increase it to multiple stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's very good.
I've seen The Sixth Sense though.
I haven't.
Something I mentioned a second ago.
I haven't. Don't spoil it for me.
I think the rest of the world will have you covered on that spoiler.
Yep.
I've not.
I knew very early on what the ending to that movie was before watching it. Unfortunately,
that's prior to spoiler warning. That's like one of the few that was like needed that to exist as a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't watched it knowing the spoiler, so I don't know how it lands. Like coming to it later, knowing the end, because that's like a big deal.
Yeah,
obviously in the film. It didn't really land for me as a movie
that was
the first time.
That was the start of his calling card. you know, Shyamalan.
Oh,
have a big twist at the end and some big reveal. Or
did Signs have that? I guess technically the water thing was the Signs is.
Yeah,
it didn't feel like
it wasn't
a normal
as
one.
No, it wasn't.
I actually love Signs.
There are parts in Signs that scare the crap out of me.
There are a lot of parts in Signs that scare the crap out of me.
Yeah,
it's a very spooky movie. Yeah, and not for like not in a jump scare way.
No, just shots.
Are you talking about the hand under the door?
Oh my god. I'm getting goosebumps just sitting
the
here.
Shadows or the so I made it so okay so
or the shot in the mirror in the living room.
Yeah.
No, I can't do it. I watch all kinds of horror movies.
What about
that movie? Really gets me.
I have a weird quote that I said a long time ago.
Okay,
and I was being quoted a lot. About a scene from Signs. Yeah. That it's gonna stick with me forever. I don't know the exact quote, just the fact that I said it, but it's about one of those spooky scenes, which is the quinceañera.
Yeah.
The like found footage scene of like it's just a scene of a party going on and people freaking out, and then like during a whip pan of a blurry image, like a la Bigfoot footage.
Yeah.
It the reporter who's the news station that's reporting on that scene shows like an alleyway that's in the shot and like it's like half stride alien in the end of the hallway.
Yeah,
that's a great film. A lot of people fucking hate that film.
Yeah,
I don't get it. Like I don't even see like the Hallmark like reasons to hate one of his films in it. It's like such a shallow version of what he does in film. I think it still has some of those markers. But yeah.
That movie really spooked me a lot.
It is very spooky, yeah. It's also curious because like the aliens in that film are kind of not that spooky. Like in terms of like traditionally spooky aliens that like come down to murder everyone.
No, yeah, their intentions aren't that.
I mean, yeah, like the whole thing is about how it's like we're afraid because we don't know their intentions and that whole thing, and this is like a zoomed in story of how people react to that. It's so good.
Yeah. Yep.
It did a lot with like, and it's the same thing that Lovecraft does. It's just not really a Lovecraftian story.
Yeah.
So I'm not upset that it won't be included in this cast or anything, but it does a lot with the fear by not showing you a lot.
Yeah.
Showing you very little.
Yep.
Making you immediately like, I think any movie's a great movie when the cornfield is a character. Like,
when
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, when you can make the environment the antagonist of the film, that's a huge we are going to talk about The Witch on here at some point.
I haven't seen that, so this is spoiler territory for me too.
Yeah, well, and I'm not going to say anything.
It does that to some extent.
It does it very well.
Cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I have seen parts of one that is not directly related, but definitely plays with it, which is The Ritual. We're going to watch that later at some point. Probably much later. We have no immediate plans to watch that one, but
yeah.
I was at your place before you moved to this place, and we were painting magic cards. So you were like, sort of giving me an environment to practice altars that I wanted to do, because you famously, for me, within circles, famously alter magic cards in the past, and
actually, so I just did one the other day randomly, so kind of picked that back up, I guess.
There you go. Now you're gonna have knocks on your door.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, maybe
probably not, but
so I was dipping my hand in that for the first time ever, and this guy was being a wealth of knowledge when I needed it. Kind of, both of us were doing something in that realm, and I had my back facing a television because I don't work well with media on.
I'm the same way.
I get distracted, and that's happened even though I purposefully faced away, where I would turn back around. And The Ritual was something that was playing because it's a Netflix movie.
Yeah,
and so I've turned around for moments, some big moments.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be like devoid of spoilers for us,
right?
But so that movie does a lot for characterizing the environment.
Yes.
In a really big way.
It's cool. Yeah,
but look forward to that too.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that one whenever it is.
It'll be really interesting because it's one of the first where it's relevant that I've seen it prior.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil anything now for that, but we talked about that the first time I half watched it, and how you mentioned that there's like basically more to see the second time around kind of thing. Yes. And that's true of, like, we've brought up lots of theories where that's true of these movies we've watched. Where it's like Annihilation was a big one where we spent a long time talking about how the way the after image visual only shows up in certain moments, and whether that is moments of the lies occurring from the perspective of the replacement, or
it's only inside the shimmer,
or it's only inside the shimmer, and all this stuff, and like, because I don't think it's only inside the shimmer, because there's one on the balcony before they get in there.
I still didn't notice that one the second time. The time I watched it after that, but I did notice it elsewhere. So.
Okay. So yeah, it's curious, but so like it's kind of got something like that going on, where it's like you just watch it the second time. There's something you can pay attention for, maybe, and it gives you that weird extra piece to, like an Easter egg. But yeah, I think we talked a lot about location characterization in our True Detective series, because they do a great job of making the bayou super important, giving it lots of screen time, actual shots that aren't important for like spatial relevance, other than just look at where we are, the middle of fucking
it's all
nowhere.
Atmospheric, and how it slowly creeps over that whole space. I mean, we drowns it over time and overgrows and stuff, just like how entangled they are in this mess. And
we never talked about that either, but the show becomes increasingly claustrophobic in that regard, because the early 2 to 3 episodes show lots of like sprawling shots of like fields, and we get the church shot in like, was it episode 4 or 2 or 2?
Yeah.
And like
the end of episode 2.
Yeah. And the area that is in is like empty.
Yeah.
There's no like forest,
it's way
just
out in the middle of
one building that has stood somehow against the fire that should have taken it down. But then, we move on, and then we're starting to get in cramped places like the school. And then finally we're in Carcosa, and it's like the most cramped you could possibly be. Yeah. And then at the very end, it opens to some crazy fucking hurricane of blue stardust or some shit. And
so great.
God, and the story's over. And so, it's, I don't know. It's like, you could argue that there's some sort of like spiraling structure to that too, where we start out in the big open space, and we slowly come to the point of
the center,
of less like the labyrinth and the Minotaur and that whole thing.
Yep. Yeah. God, go watch the show if you haven't yet, and then listen to our episodes about it. We have some good discussion.
You don't have to listen to the episodes if you don't want to. Just watch the show. All I care about is you get to experience it.
Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah. But if you like it enough and want to hear other people talk about it.
If you made it this far in this particular episode.
Yeah.
May as well, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Right.
Hopefully you like us that much. You've spent 2 hours with
us. This was a good one. I enjoyed this film quite a bit.
Yeah, it's nice. I don't have, it's one of the few films where I have very little negative to say about it.
Yes. Yeah.
The negatives are, like, if you could call them that, are just differences.
Yeah.
Which I don't consider personally as a negative.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty quality all the way through.
Yeah.
So
it did what it wanted to do.
And very effectively.
Yeah.
So
also, speaking of that, when we mentioned that there was like the CG moments that it was hard to tell what some shots were CG and what shots weren't in some moments. So regardless of the technical limitations of 2010, well, before 2010 when the film was made, hats off to that team.
Yeah, like, absolutely. Yeah.
The CG work, regardless of how quote unquote quality it is, served like a strong purpose here.
Yes, and they're
married everything together
and all that stuff. Yeah, making it as seamless as it was.
For sure.
Very good.
Because that's like the kind of modern day CG work that is like the best CG work. The ones you can't see the seams on.
Absolutely.
So
even
if it's like, not a big flashy monster that's in CG.
No, it's like one object or something that you
just never even know it's CG. Like tire treads in the ground or something.
Yeah.
There's lots of weird stuff that I learn about that I would never have guessed as CG. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, I guess that does make sense. You wouldn't want to try and film that.
Right. Yeah.
Or that it wouldn't show up the way that we get to see it in real life.
The lighting is not ideal, or
or whatever.
You can't capture it at the appropriate angle to get what you want.
Or it's like not even a flashy movie. It's just like it takes place all in one house, like a Parasite style thing where it's just like a zoom in on people. And then
I saw that, by the way. Did I tell you that?
Yeah. Well, I think Abby told me you guys watched it. But yeah, it's like that where it's like, oh yeah, by the way, this whole shot is CG. And it's like, what? Yeah, we had to paint the guy out and then put him back in the shot.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Right.
So
yeah.
I think CG of any quality can have a place.
Yeah.
That's basically what I'm saying.
Yep.
And this stuff did not feel out of place.
No. Very well done.
All right. Sorry.
Cool.
I interrupted you going into our outro, I think.
Oh, that's fine. That was more interesting than the outro. Here's the obligatory social media bit. All right. You can follow us on Twitter at The Void Stairs for any updates and other fun tidbits and all that jazz. What Twitter is for.
Our additional presence on the internet.
Yeah. We do have a website, thevoidstairsback.com, where we post everything that we do. And you can...
In the order that we do it.
Yes. And you can visually see everything that we've done to this point, and you can leave comments and we will respond to them all, and you can email us from there as well.
What sorts of stuff can they find on there that isn't this?
Oh, hey, well, we have a Let's Play series currently running where I'm blind playing through the video game Darkest Dungeon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we play games of this theme.
Yes, yeah. That we're just still on the first one.
Yeah, so, we picked a big one.
We did. And I'm not disappointed at all that
it's starting to get juicy.
Yeah, it's been fun. But that is on YouTube, which we don't actually have as of this recording, we actually don't have a like youtube.com/thevoidstairsback yet.
We don't. Yeah, we're not popular enough to have our own URL.
Yeah.
So we just got links to click.
Yep. But those will be there. The videos are embedded on the posts on the website. But you can go to YouTube to find the podcast episodes and this.
Yeah, I think you can also just search The Void Stairs Back into their search bar.
Yep.
And have some amount of success finding us.
Yeah. The logo will be the same. That's how you know.
There you go. Yeah. The observatory.
Yeah. And then if you like everything that we do, we have a Patreon.
We do. If you have any inclination to support us monetary wise, millions of thanks for you.
Yes.
We don't expect it. Everything we do here will remain free forever.
Yep.
So far as the internet remains free. I'm looking at you, big suits that make decisions like that. Mm-hmm. You jerks. But yeah, if you want to take that further step, if you're financially able and interested, you could donate any amount of money there for now. We have one sort of tier reward, which is you get access to all of our audiobooks that we will be recording.
Yeah.
And at the time of this recording, we will have 3 of them, maybe 4 of them up. No, 3 of them. Yeah, because this is coming out in March.
That actually will only have 2.
January, I guess you can expect one at the end of this month.
Third one. Yep.
Correct. Mm-hmm. That's true. Good on you.
Yeah.
You know how this works because you run that part of it. But knowing that if you come across this episode like a million years from now, everything we've done up to that point will become available to you.
Yep.
So anything we make now, have made in that regard, is yours for the taking. So if you're not interested in reading some of the stuff that we cover, or you don't have time, we'll do it for you, and you can listen to our sultry voices, a bit higher, with a bit higher production behind it.
Yes.
So it isn't quite as variable.
Yep. We also do some things outside of this podcast that are not related whatsoever. We like to play board games a lot.
Yeah, it's like some would say it's a larger hobby than this interest that we have based if they were to look at our short-term life in the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. They'd be like, all they do is play games.
Yeah.
Look at their purchases.
I've been told that by people.
Is
that all you do is play games?
They prefer not to interact with the people outside. They prefer not to buy food, instead buy cardboard.
But we like to show that off and share that hobby with others via Twitch.
We do.
And we play with a group of friends, and that happens, varying times through the week. But the main show is on Tuesdays at 5 where you'll see the whole group of us. And that is no particular theme. The game changes week to week based on whose week it is. So
yeah, and that's 5 p.m. Central Standard at Cardboard on Tap is the name of the channel. I don't
Yeah,
know
I didn't
that you
mention
mentioned
that yet.
that. Cardboard on Tap, which you can search up on Twitch. We have links to this also below as well if you're one of the clickers and not one of the typers.
Yep. And then from there you can follow that channel on Twitter as well, because we're not the only 2 people who use that or announce anything on there.
Correct, yeah.
And we are now producing content exclusively for YouTube through that channel as well. So
yeah, non-live content.
Yeah. So
who knew it was possible?
If you're interested in board gaming at all, or just want to see more things that we do,
come say hi.
Yeah, please do.
We'll be around. You can count on us.
You sure can.
You could count on Joey Josh to stare the void. You don't have to, because we got it covered.
I'm already snorkeling in it.
He's snorkeling in it, and I've just become glassy-eyed. You just nope back into your cauldron.
Yeah. He's almost ready.
The water is luke cold.
Yes.